What is the scariest, strangest, most unexplainable thing that has happened to you while home alone? Was 17 years old, left alone from Thursday to Sunday with our family's dog, who was pretty small and starting to have trouble climbing stairs in his old age. I'd be working every morning while my parents were out of town. Came home from my shift on Friday, and everything about the kitchen table was a mess. Napkins were taken out of the holder, all of the mail was thrown on the floor, salt and pepper shaker on the other side of the kitchen but together, and one of the chairs pulled far away from the table. Our dog's never done anything like this, and I'd be especially surprised if he was even capable of climbing on top of the table. I reset it all. Saturday, I come back to find the exact same configuration. Don't have the pictures anymore, but every detail was just as I found it the day before. Pretty much the entire night, I'm convinced there's gonna be a ghost coming to get me, and I sleep horribly and barely rest for work on Sunday. I leave for work and make sure the place was orderly when I left, because I knew my parents would be back before I was out of work. When I go on my lunch break, I call my mom and ask about all of the details from the past 2 days, and she just goes, "Yeah, why did you leave such a mess?" She didn't get pictures, so I can't verify how similar the mess was, but regardless, I can't believe my old dog would have done that for the details 3 consecutive days, and I don't even know if he was strong enough to move the chairs or climb on the table. Only time anything like this ever happened while I was left alone. You got ghost punked. I dreamed the front door blew open at the exact time the house alarm went off. I hopped up and sure enough, the front door was open. No intruder. You're telekinetic. No, wait. Your door is telepathic. One night I had forgotten to lock my apartment door and woke up in the middle of the night. My bedroom door was about 2 feet from my front door, as you walked into the apartment. First a big dog ran by, then a person. Holy shoot, I was so scared and I screeched, "Who is it?" A man said, "It's Doug." As I was thinking to myself, "Who the fuck is Doug?" he said, "Oh, shoot." He turned around to go back out the front door saying sorry. I asked, "Didn't you have a dog with you?" He said, "Oh, yeah. Hey, come on." He left, his dog ran out after him, and I locked my front door. My sister and I were home alone and we heard someone big running up the stairs. The stairs make lots of noise with slight pressure, so when there's someone big on them you can tell. I went out of my room to check but saw no one anywhere, and my sister also came out of her room and she asked if that was me. I said no, and we both looked around to see if there was anyone but found no one in the whole house. We were confused and called our parents and just waited until they got back, and that was that.
Not home alone, but only one in right side of the house. Went to my mom's bathroom to wash my hands and saw a pair of feet behind the half-open door. Laughed and said, "Very funny, Ma, I see you," then finished up and left. Bumped into my mother in the kitchen unpacking. Nobody else was in the house. I'm glad whatever was behind the door didn't peek out.
Not really home alone, but when I was little, I remember as my dad was taking us to bed, I ran up first to sneak behind my bedroom door. The plan was to jump out and scare my brother before bed, as my bedroom was just opposite the bathroom and he had to walk past it to get to his room. However, behind the bedroom door was 2 strange men hiding. One had a beard and long hair, the other I don't clearly remember, but think he was very skinny. The guy with long hair whispered to me to go away, so I calmly went away and slept with my dad. Mum was working nights and this wasn't uncommon for me, so he never questioned it. I was rightly spooked, and didn't want to be on my own. But didn't tell my dad what I saw, as I was petrified inside. Straight up thought I'd been told off by some creepy ghosts. We were robbed that night. My brother also woke up that night to go to the bathroom and saw the downstairs light on from the staircase. At the time he thought it was our mother, and would normally, if he got up early, run down and see her. For some reason he didn't go downstairs that night and instead hopped in bed with me and our dad too. When my mom came home, the downstairs was trashed and she was terrified something happened to us. She ran upstairs in a panic and found us all in bed safe and sound. Home insurance was able to salvage most of the losses, and we got a dog not long after that as a deterrent for thieves, which growing up never had another issue again. So I guess not really unexplainable, but strange, scary story. I managed to lock myself out of my house on my birthday during a tornado while trying to bring my cats to the basement for safety. I later found out that the tornado was approximately a couple miles or less from me at that exact time. The sky was green and it got weirdly calm, and then I could hear what sounded like a train coming before I found an unlocked window to climb through. Wild times. I wasn't home alone, but I was awake by myself one Saturday morning in the 80s when I was around 7 or so. I believe my mom was the only one home because my dad went to the lake to go fishing that weekend, and I'm not sure where my older brothers were, maybe they went with him, IDK. Anyways, my mom's sleeping in, and I'm in the living room by myself, watching Saturday morning cartoons and making a fort out of sheets and cushions. Something made me turn around and I saw my dad in his pajamas standing in the hallway entrance with his hands on his hips, looking the mess I was making and shaking his head. He then turned around and walked into my room, which was just off the hallway entrance. Dude. I didn't even look, I just booked it to my parents' room and woke my mom up. I don't remember what happened after that, this was around 35 years ago. And yes, my dad was fine, nothing had happened to him. Back in high school I'd usually be up all hours of the night playing games. I had a large dog at the time that would sleep in my room at night. It was 2 a.m. and I was finally headed to bed, but my dog wasn't with me, so I ventured out to find him. I made my way across the house to the kitchen/dining room combo. I'm standing in the only door frame that leads to that side of the house. We had an island in the kitchen with a stool that the junk mail was usually kept on. So I walk up, call for my dog, and see him walk from behind the island to behind the dining room table set, knocking all the junk mail down as he did so. I huff and flip on the light, no dog. I freak out, scramble back across the house, and end up finding him in my parents' room. I regale the story the next day to my parents and younger sister, who often claim to see stuff in the house. My sister pipes up and goes, "Oh, that's the tall black thing. Yeah, sometimes it likes to crawl around on all fours." Big nope. I got up in the middle of the night to pee and happened to glance out the window to my backyard to see a glowing yellow figure that looked like it was collecting soil samples from my backyard. I absolutely shat myself and bumped into the sink. The figure stopped what it was doing and looked at me. I bolted back to my room and woke my wife, but when we went back it was gone. Funny thing is, I've told this story to other people and the wife of a friend of mine burst into tears and said she had seen the same thing when she was a child, but nobody believed her. People asking for more detail. It looked to be about 7 feet tall, as when it stood up it was well taller than my fence. I couldn't make out any detail because it was glowing so strongly, and my adrenaline was pumping like crazy, and I live in very populated suburban Sydney. It was also between 2 to 3 a.m. Also it was through a fly screen and open window from upstairs bathroom. I grew up in a very rural area. Our house was on the end of a dead-end road in the middle of Midwest farm country. In high school I was in cross-country and track and found it easiest to run in the late evenings on nights when there wasn't practice. One night, which was fairly well lit by the moon, I was running the last quarter mile to my house and I saw someone else running toward me on the road from the direction of my house. I live on a dead-end road. There is nothing but farm fields behind it, and it definitely wasn't my mom running. It surprised me so much I stopped for a second to consider what I was seeing. I remember exactly what the runner was wearing, and I watched her run another 5 or 6 strides towards me before she disappeared or blended into the night like the Predator or some such. Now it could have been exhaustion or dehydration, I guess, but I've run a lot farther and a lot longer than I did that night without seeing anyone materialize and evaporate. I never did again, either on that road or anywhere else. It was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. I ran home crying panic tears, and I am not ashamed to tell you about it. I couldn't bring myself to run at night again for a month. I was at home by myself on a call with some friends when all of a sudden my dog begins to bark like crazy, which was odd since it was the middle of the night and he's usually asleep. I go downstairs to check on him and find him barking at our hall closet. Terrified, I grabbed my bat that I keep in my room just in case and opened the door. There was nothing out of usual at first, then I looked down and noticed a familiar looking object at the bottom of the closet. It was my mom's necklace she had lost when I was 9. I'm 15 now, just to put in perspective how long it's been. I showed it to my mom at breakfast and she was just as shocked as I was. I still have no clue how it got there or how my dog knew it was in there. Definitely one of the oddest occurrences of my life.
In grade 9, my best friend and I were having a sleepover at my house. My parents and younger brother were visiting family, so we were home alone. After it was dark outside, we started watching a movie. We were laying on separate couches, watching the TV that was situated next to a door frame that leads to the kitchen, bedrooms and basement. In a matter of seconds, I see a feminine figure standing in the doorway, facing me, and for some reason I instinctively said, "Don't leave me." My friend laying on the other couch, also saw the figure and said to me, "Don't worry, he'll go away in a second," thinking it was my younger brother. The figure just faded away, kind of like mist, into the other room. We looked at each other and realized what had just happened, then quickly turned on all the lights and sat on the same couch. We're 28 now. Still have absolutely no idea who or what that was or why I said that, but I still think about it often.
Many years ago, when my now 28-year-old daughter was still an infant, me, her, and our dog were at the apartment we were living in at the time. My wife was at work, I was sitting on the couch watching TV, my daughter was asleep on a blanket pallet on the floor, and the dog, a German Shepherd, Wolf hybrid mix, was about 10 feet away laying in the doorway between our kitchen and the living room area. At any rate, I was watching whatever it was that I was watching when all of a sudden, Thor, our dog, starts with this low-level, guttural growling. I figured that he had heard someone in another apartment or walking by through the parking lot and don't think much of it. As a few seconds pass, I notice that it's getting louder and I can see out of the corner of my eye that he has lifted his head up off his paws, his ears are perked, and he's looking up at the ceiling over where my daughter was laying. I look up, don't see anything, tell him to knock it off. Right after I tell him to knock it off, he jumps up, starts circling my sleeping daughter, literally walking around the pallet she's laying on, and growling more and more intensely, even stopping once and outright snarling and snapping his teeth, all while staring up at the ceiling. After about 2 minutes of this, and me having no clue on what to do since I can't see anything and I do not want to reach for my daughter with him circling her like that, he laid down next to my daughter, rested his head on her back, and stayed there for almost an hour, still intently staring up at the ceiling and occasionally growling. To this day, I have no idea what the hell was going on or what he saw, sensed, but it was extremely creepy to me.
Thanks for watching.